Don't lock down, no make am go.
Krishna, 12:00. What time will that one be in Nigeria? In Nigeria time, 12:00. That will be Nigeria time. We don't know that time Nigeria time. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Babu. That will be by
Hare
11
Krishna.
Nigeria.
11, okay.
Okay, are they adjusting the time?
Yes.
To 11 now, Abby?
For today, only today, Prabhu said you start class, start speaking by 11. Only today.
Okay, no problem.
We just have a few minutes to go.
Okay.
Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shadakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayati Girim Yat Kripatam Ahang Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Charu Swaminiti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pastacha Desha Tarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Gadadhar Shivasari Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Hare Krishna, and so let's see. Yesterday we covered, I think, 7 verses yesterday, and we discussed quite at length the purport of these verses, where Prabhupada zooms in on the personalists and the impersonalists, because Arjuna asked the question, who is considered more perfect, the devotees or the impersonalists? So that's the opening shot that Arjuna starts with this. And then, so the rest of the purports, Prabhupada deals with this issue quite at length. And we've seen how Krishna describes how the path of impersonalism is very difficult. It's very difficult. There's lots of challenges. Meditation has to be in a certain way. It's a challenge, but eventually Krishna says, at last they achieve me after many births. After many births, the man of wisdom seeks refuge in me, knowing that Vasudeva is all. When a person comes to full knowledge after many births, he surrenders unto Lord Krishna. So, let me just see if we can do this quickly. Because the subject of surrender, maybe you can. Maybe let me ask this question, because I think we should touch on this. I haven't really, because it is a theme. Surrender is a theme. I've alluded to it quite a bit, although it's not a theme in this particular Bhakti Sastri. Excuse me. It's not a theme in this particular Bhakti Shastri course of yours, but I think we can spend like at least 10 minutes on it to speak about it, because it is tied in with the subject matter that we discussed previously of faith. because when we speak about faith, often we refer to other people. Other people are faithless and they don't have faith in Krishna. But we also looked at it from the point of view of, although we may be externally engaging in Krishna consciousness, but we still don't have faith, and this faith is shown in different ways. So these are similar. So let me ask you this: what is your understanding of surrender? Because we hear this all the time. We tell each other surrender. You have to surrender to Krishna, but what does that really mean?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Onyeko Prabhu.
Yes. Thank you for the wonderful lecture. Then my contribution on the surrender. When one surrender himself to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of the Godhead, it means that you surrendered your will, your activities to Him, which means normally when you want to do a particular thing, and you see that this is how you wanted it to be. But when you consider that the way you want it and the way Krishna wants it is not the same, you now abandon your own and now do it according to the way Krishna wants it. Then you dovetail your will, your activities. That is, it's just like not my will, but let your will be done. This is how I want it. But you do it according to Krishna's will. It's just like
how do you do it Krishna's will? If I come to you, if you're taking prasadam and I come to you and I take your plate of prasadam and I say, this is Krishna's will, Prabhu.
It's just like when a woman surrender his father's name, now started answering the husband's name as a son name. That is, you surrender your totality to Krishna.
Can you repeat that example? Or before you do, I see we have somebody. There's a name I haven't seen here before. Who's Vibhu Chaitanya?
Okay, let me check.
Vibhu Chaitanya, turn your camera on. Say, let's see who's this, because you are new in my class. Okay, Balabhadra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Go ahead.
So what I can say about surrender is to follow the four regulation principles and to follow the protocol in the thing.
Okay, to follow the four regulatory principles. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And to follow the protocols in the thing.
And to follow the process.
All regulation principles. Regulation is no intoxication, no places, no gambling, no illicit sex appear. That's intoxicating. Give it to Krishna.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Prabhu. Anybody else? Purushottam Prabhu, Isana Goranga, and Anantajit? Because especially those that are initiated, I think everybody here except Bhakti Onyako is initiated. So you said you surrendered to Krishna. What does that mean? You say you surrendered. What does that mean? Balabhadra Prabhu has given us his expert understanding. Somebody was saying something?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
My understanding is, thank you very much for the opportunity, but my understanding is just very simple. Just letting the will of God be done. God, let your will be done, or let your will be done. That is what I understand about I surrender.
So how do you know God's will is being done? If I'm the temple president and I say, or if I'm the head pujari and I say, all Mahaprashadam has to come to me, that's God's will.
Fantastic. That needs to be done.
How will you know anything that is happening is Krishna's will? How will you know that? It's very vague.
But he has said himself, there's not a blade of grass moved without
No,
his
but how do
sanction.
you? Of course, that's what he said. But how do you know in your life, in your environment, in the life of the other devotees? How do you know that this is Krishna's will or this is God's will? Because this very same question is important because religion has been used. We've discussed this several times. How religion can be used to control and manipulate people, and people say this is God's will, right? We've spoken about the different types of cheating religion. One of them is a pastor standing in front of the people and saying that give me your money because this is God's will. Make me rich because this is God's will. So how do you know?
Actually, for that matter, especially for prasadam, you said prasadam has to be distributed. That is not what Prabhupada taught us, that all prasadam should go to temple president. So in that case, some intelligence has to be used here to stop such situation. So in that case, I don't really think it's the true will of God. It's something that is being manipulated or selfishness that is coming in here. But that's not what Prabhupada taught us. That's not what the gurus are also teaching us. So that is not actually the will of God. Yes, Prabhu. Okay.
So just taking from history as well, just to put it in, because this is also one of the things we've been doing, is that in the 80s, I won't mention any, you can go to the history archives and look this up. But during the zonal Acharya system time, the one of the big zonal Acharya, I mean many of them, quite a few of them, but this one particular, he made devotees do stuff. He made women go out, and then we're talking about devotees here. He made women go out, do prostitution, and bring the money in, so it can be used to build a temple. He abused children, and in the name of training them, so many things. And devotees were following. Devotees were, this is God's will, this is Krishna's will. So how do you know these things? I mean, it's something that has happened in our history. Of course, it's unlikely to ever happen again because devotees are much more wiser now. But you see how when you leave things vague, it can be interpreted into, it can be channeled into a certain way.
Yes, Prabhu.
But I like what you said.
That
I
is
like
not
what you
actually
said. A little intelligent is important. Yeah, go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
No.
not
Let
the will
Purushottam
of
Prabhu speak first.
that is not the will of God. It's totally abusing, and then in fact it is not in the line of the Acharyas. So it's very, very bad and very dangerous. So the will of God cannot be inside this matter. It's totally out of God's will.
Okay.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Onyeka.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Haribo.
Okay. The way to know the will of God is contained in the Word of God. Like when I enter ISKCON, I started with all those books they normally put on the bookstand. I read them. I bought so many of the books. I read them. I know what the regulatory principles and the chanting and all those things. So the best way to know the will of God is to read the scriptures. the Vedic culture, the Vedic literature, read them very well and master them. Then, if somebody is doing otherwise, because we did not see God and we cannot see God, the only way we can see Krishna is by reading the books, the Vedic literature. So when we master them, when we see people doing otherwise in the name of being in authority, because sometimes some people in authority, they know the right thing to do, but because of their weaknesses, they might do otherwise. And some people too, some devotees too may know that this president or this person is not doing the right thing. But because the person is the one in power and in charge, in order maybe not to sanction them or not to ask them to leave the temple or whatever, they will end up following the person like that, sheepishly, like eye service. But within them, they don't like it. So knowing the will of God, to read the scripture, like the regulative principles and chanting the holy name of God. Sometimes early in the morning, the body may be weak, you might not be willing, but because it is demanded by the Supreme, you discipline your body in order to do it. So that is how my own contribution.
All right.
Krishna does not like cheating. He likes service. He prefer you to have your own to put people's needs ahead of your own. That is humility, obedience, consistency, and always be at minimum, be in in the mood of goodness at minimum. So that's my own contribution. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Isana Goranga, please put your hand down once you finished.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Please, to know whether Krishna's will is being done, one must consult the three great authorities. And these great authorities are Guru, Sadhu, and the Shastra. So when your thoughts, decisions, and action in harmony with these three great authorities, you can be confident that you are acting according to Krishna's desire. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So let's hear what Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Rupa Goswami and the Acharyas say about surrender, Sharanagati. So according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, what he did is he systematized, he put surrender into 6 limbs, right? So this is in his book Sharanagati, his famous book Sharanagati, where many of our bhajans come from. So the first anga of surrender, so when we are speaking about surrender, we are speaking about these 6 things. So the 6 angas of surrender, many of you will be familiar with this. The first one is Anukulyasya Sankalpa, accepting everything favorable for bhakti or Krishna consciousness. Everything that is favorable for Krishna consciousness, you accept it. And then Pratikulyasya Varjanam, rejecting everything unfavorable for bhakti. Raksishyatiti Vishvasa, which means firm faith that Krishna will protect. And remember, I spoke about faith, how the word faith really means, I mean, we've discussed this, I won't go into it again. We analyze the word faith, and faith means something. How did Prabhupada describe it? Trust in something sublime. Remember that? He defined faith as trust in something sublime. And then the fourth one is Gotritve Varana, accepting Krishna as one's maintainer. So you'll see, maybe we should read this. Let's see. The preface of Nectar of Instruction is very powerful. I'll read it to you. Okay, I found it. Nectar. The preface. Okay, it's right at the end. Okay, I'll read this part. Advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. A follower of Krishna consciousness movement should become a perfect Goswami. Vaishnavas are generally known as Goswamis. In Vrindavan, this is the title. Okay. Unless one controls his senses and mind, one cannot become a Goswami. To achieve the highest success of life by becoming a Goswami, then a pure devotee of the Lord, one must follow the instructions known as Upadeshamrita, given by Rupa Goswami. There's a part that I'm looking for here. It's not. It's maybe the introduction. Anyway, you can read it because there's an introduction and there's the preface. Here the preface is there, but the introduction is not there in my book, and I can't read it here. But Prabhupada says there that he speaks about purity of purpose. Purity of purpose means that I belong only to Krishna. I belong only to Krishna. Let me see if I can. Purity. So I'm searching my database because I can't find. It's not here. So anyway, so purity of purpose. Purity of purpose means that I belong to Krishna and Krishna belongs to me. That's purity of purpose. Prabhupada writes there that purity of purpose is the understanding that I do not belong to any country. I do not belong to any tribe, any clan, but I belong to Krishna. So this is purity of purpose. So this is number 4, accepting Krishna as one's maintainer. Atma Nikshepa, Atma Samarpana. This is offering oneself fully to Krishna, right? And when we are speaking about Atma, remember Atma means body, it means mind, it also means the soul. So Atma Nivedana means offering these things fully to Krishna. And then of course Karpanya, which means humility. So when we speak about surrender, it's not just like this. Surrender is not just this abstract thing. It's concrete. So this is what we mean when we speak about surrender. And yeah, anyway, I mean this is a study. Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Devotion, he lists surrender or Atma Nivedana as one of the 64 angas of bhakti. And he describes it as offering one's body, mind, possessions, and very life purpose to Krishna. And recognizing that nothing is mine, but everything belongs to Krishna. So these are some of the definitions or the understanding of surrender as given by acharyas. Because one of you mentioned that there has to be an alignment between Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So all these terms that keep coming up here, they are not just standalone terms. Because sometimes you accept words and we normally don't interrogate them much deeper. Words like surrender, words like devotional service, for instance, what it means. So yeah, Krishna was saying again that the worship of the impersonal is very difficult, but those that surrender unto him is very easy. So this is what it means. And then we were starting today with number 8, with 8. So in number 7, so Krishna now will give a sort of a process, a step-by-step process, how different people can come to know him. Right? And in number 8, he says, just fix your mind on Krishna. And then in number 9, he says, practice sadhana bhakti. Right? Actually, let me just read it. Now 8, just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always, without a doubt. Right? So this is the highest level of in these step by step. If you can do this, great. If you can fix your mind on Krishna, it's great. But remember, go back to chapter 6 where Arjuna was saying, controlling the mind is very difficult. It's more difficult than controlling the wind. And so Krishna says, my dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. So if you can fix your mind on me the whole day without deviation, then at least follow the process of sadhana bhakti. You know, waking up in the morning, rules and regulations, all that stuff. Right? And in number 10, in this way, develop a desire to attain me. Number 10, if you cannot practice the regulation of bhakti, if you can't follow the process of bhakti, then just try to work for me. So work for Krishna. And 11, if however you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act, giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated. In other words, renounce the fruits of your results to me. Give me the results of your work. And still, if you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Right? And better than knowledge, however, is meditation. And better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. So knowledge, meditation, renunciation equals peace of mind. So these are the step-by-step process. The first one is fix your mind on Krishna. If you can't fix your mind on Krishna, then practice sadhana bhakti. And if you can't practice sadhana bhakti, then work for Krishna. If you can't work for Krishna, then renounce the results for Krishna, right? And if you can't do that, then cultivate knowledge at least. So these are the different levels by which one can actually gradually make spiritual progress. So Prabhupada says in number 8, one engaged in Lord Krishna's devotional service lives in a direct relationship with the Supreme Lord. So there is no doubt that his position is transcendental from the very beginning. A devotee does not live on the material plane, he lives in Krishna. And I gave that example, we read that verse together, Kurvanti Tirthani, that wherever the devotees go becomes a place of pilgrimage because they carry Krishna within their heart. So they don't live in the material plane, even though they live in the body. And then in number 9, Prabhupada says there in the purport, Bhakti Yoga is a purification of the senses. At the present moment in material existence, the senses are always impure, being engaged in sense gratification. But the practice of Bhakti Yoga, these senses can become purified, and in the purified state, they come directly in contact with the Supreme Lord. In this material existence, so Prabhupada here is alluding to the power of the purification of sadhana bhakti, right? To practice sadhana bhakti, okay, let's start from here. This love of God is now in a dormant state in everyone's heart, and there, love of Godhead is manifest in different ways, but it is contaminated by material association. Now the heart has to be purified of the material association, and that dormant natural love for Krishna has to be revived. That is the whole process. To practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, one should, under the guidance of an expert spiritual master, follow certain principles. One should rise early in the morning, take bath, enter the temple, and offer prayers and chant Hare Krishna. Then collect flowers to offer to the deity, cook foodstuffs to offer to the deity, take prasadam, and so on. There are various rules and regulations which one should follow. and one should constantly hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam from pure devotees. This practice can help anyone rise to the level of love of God, and then he is sure of his progress into the spiritual kingdom of God. This practice of Bhakti Yoga, under the rules and regulations, with the direction of a spiritual master, will surely bring one to the stage of love of Godhead. So this is proper. This is the definition. This is literally the definition, the literal definition of sadhana bhakti. Prabhupada is saying here that this practice of bhakti yoga, under rules and regulations with the directions of the spiritual master, that is the definition of nectar of sadhana bhakti, and you'll do that when you study your nectar of devotion. Prabhupada says in 10, one who is not able to even practice the regulative principles of bhakti yoga under the guidance of a spiritual master can still be drawn to this perfectional stage by working for the Supreme Lord. How to do this work has already been explained in the 5th verse of 11th chapter. One should be sympathetic to the propagation of Krishna consciousness. There are many devotees who are engaged in the propagation of Krishna consciousness, and they require help. So even if one cannot directly practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, he can try to help such work. Every endeavor requires land, capital, organization, and labor. Just as in business, one requires a place to stay, some capital to use, some labor, and some organization to expand. So the same is required in the service of Krishna. The only difference is that in the material world, one works for this sense gratification. So this is the process of, if you can't follow sadhana bhakti, right, then work for Krishna. Support the devotee, support the process of Krishna consciousness. And then, if you can't do that, Prabhupada said, this is 11, it may be that one is unable even to sympathize with the activities of Krishna consciousness because of social, familial, or religious considerations. Just like Bhakta Onyako, we see him sometimes in church, sometimes in meetings. It may be that one is unable to even to sympathize with the activities of Krishna consciousness because of social, familial, or religious consideration, or because of some other impediments. If one attaches himself directly to the activities of Krishna consciousness, there may be objections from family members, or so many other difficulties. For one who has such a problem, it is advised that he sacrifice the accumulated results of his activities for some good cause. Such procedures are described in the Vedic rules. There are many descriptions of sacrifices and special functions for the full moon day. So Prabhupada goes on and on and on like that. That is also recommended here because by the practice of giving up the fruits of one's activities, one is sure to purify his mind gradually, and in that purified stage of mind, one becomes able to understand Krishna consciousness. So wherever we are in our spiritual life, there's an opportunity to make spiritual advancement, right? And then 12, if you cannot take to this practice, Prabhupada says, as mentioned in the previous verse, there are two kinds of devotional service: the way of regulative principles and the way full of attachment in love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada here is speaking about, you'll discuss this in detail, but Prabhupada here is speaking about Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, for instance, we are woken up by an alarm clock. The temple commander has to wake us up and force us to go to the temple room. We are half asleep. Mangalati Sangsara Dava. But you are dreaming at the same time. I had a nice dream, right? So you are there only out of duty. So this is Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, one is doing things out of love. So that's the difference. So Prabhupada is alluding to this difference. As mentioned in the previous verses, there are two kinds of devotional service: the way of regulative principles and the way of full attachment in love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For those who are actually not able to follow the principles of Krishna consciousness, It is better to cultivate knowledge, because by knowledge one can be able to understand his real position. Gradually, knowledge will develop to the point of meditation. By meditation, one can be able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by a gradual process. There are processes which make one understand that one himself is the Supreme, and that sort of meditation is preferred if one is unable to engage in devotional service. If one is not able to meditate in such a way, then there are prescribed duties as enjoined in the Vedic literatures for the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, which we shall find in the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita. But in all cases, one should give up the results or fruits of labor. This means to employ the results of karma for some good cause. In summary, to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the highest goal, there are two processes. One process is by gradual development, and the other process is direct. Devotional service in Krishna consciousness is the direct method, and the other method involves renouncing the fruits of one's activities. Then one can come to the stage of knowledge, then to the stage of meditation, then to the stage of understanding the Supersoul, and then to the stage of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One may take either the step-by-step process or the direct process. The direct process is not possible for everyone. Therefore, the indirect process is not recommended for Arjuna because he is already at the stage of loving devotional service to the Lord. If for others who are not at his stage, it is for others who are not at his stage, for them the process of renunciation, knowledge, meditation, and realization of the Supersoul and Brahman should be followed. But as far as Bhagavad Gita is concerned, it is the direct method that is stressed. Everyone is advised to take to the direct method and surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we should also be very careful then. And we'll take a break and then we can discuss this when we come back. But we should also be careful. We should be very, Purushottam Prabhu used this term in the beginning. Some intelligence has to be there. So when we are preaching to people, we have to recognize who we are speaking to. We have to recognize where in their spiritual development they are. Because if we don't do that, then we come up with so many problems. We've discussed many of the challenges that we have in our different yatras, right? You have somebody who hates another ethnic tribe. I am Yoruba, I'm Igbo, and I hate the Fulani. I am Kwe, and I hate these people. I'm Zulu, and and then they bring these things into into Krishna consciousness, and it creates problems. So we should also be able to have the intelligence to speak to people intelligently. One of the I was asked. I was in East Africa recently, and some of the students, because I gave a first presentation, and the idea was to just give the first presentation and move on, and then the students liked it, and then I was invited to come, and then they, after the program, they came to ask me, and some of the leaders, they asked me, how is it that you're able to connect with the students like this? And if you notice, my presentation is different according to the audience. When I speak to different audience, I speak differently. And so I said to the leaders, it's because I spoke the language of the students. If you're a university student, you go to university to explore. It's for intellectual exploration, really, to learn new things. You just come out from home where there's so much restriction, and you are moving into a new territory. So you want like a freedom to explore. And so one of the challenges that we make as devotees is that we want to tell intellectuals what to think. We want to put them in a box. You accept what I say, and you do as I say because I've been around for 50 years. And that doesn't work with intellectual people. They want you to give reasonable explanations, and they want you to listen to them when you speak to them. Because one of the challenges that we have is that we don't listen. We have the highest philosophy, so therefore, because we have the highest philosophy, we don't listen to anybody, and everybody has to listen to us. It may work with some people, but it will not work with some other people. So we have to understand who we're speaking to, right? I mean, I had I was speaking. I'm sure he won't mind, but I was speaking with Raghupati's father when I was in Ghana last year, and he was sharing how when he was on book distribution, somebody came to him and he was preaching to somebody, and this person started chastising him. You are a cheater, this and this and that, and he asked him, what's the problem? So the person that cheated this gentleman gave him some juju, and he said, if you do this juju like this, you do it like this, you'll be like this, all your problems will go away. And so this person tried the juju and all of this, and the problems didn't go away. So when he saw the devotee on the streets distributing books, he was very upset. He went there and he was yelling at him and telling, you go away, and this, that. And so Raghupati's father had to explain to him, that this is not our process. That's not how we do things. So we should not also try to bend our philosophy to try to cheat people, because the result is this. You have a gentleman who now is thinking, if I take some juju, I'll be fine. Although that's not our philosophy. And so we should also cheat people to say that just by chanting Hare Krishna, all their problems will go away. If that were the truth, all our temples will be perfect. There will not be any fighting in our temples. Every devotee will be happy. But that's not the case. So let's take a 10-minute break for Gayatri, and then we'll end this section and my unit in the same way. So we'll be back at 12:55. Hare Krishna. Hari Hari. Hare Krishna. One more.
Hare Krishna.
All right, so somebody can read the rest of the verses for the chapter.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Please go ahead.
Text 13 and 14. Text 13 and 14 says, one who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination. His mind and intelligence sit on me. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. 15. He by whom no one is put into difficulty, and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me. 16. My devotee, who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without care, free from all pain, and not striving for some results, is very dear to me. 17. One who neither rejoices nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things. Such a devotee is very dear to me. 18 and 19. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who does not care for any resident, who is fixed in knowledge, and who is engaged in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me. In the last verse, those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. So you see there in number 12. Where's my pen? You see there in 13 to 14. Again, the word adveshta, non-envious or non-hating. So it's interesting here. Krishna is not merely saying to avoid envy, but devotees should have complete absence of envy. One who's not envious. And then if this word here, adveshta, in Sanskrit, the word dveshta means, dvesha, sorry. Dvesha means hatred, hostility, envy, ill will, antagonism. And then adveshta is a negation, just like you have symmetry and asymmetry. So when you put the A in the beginning, it negates what came before it. So hatred, when dvesha means, just like that verse, icha dvesha samute na dvanda mohina bharata, right? So dvesha means hatred, hostility, envy, ill will, antagonism. And adveshta means an absence of these things. So a pure devotee is somebody who wishes well for every living being. Every living being. You can see in the battlefield of Kurukshetra how the warriors would fight during the day, but they would be friends at night. They would drink together, eat together, and celebrate together. And so this is important. I mean, this theme, I've spoken a bit about this. This theme is also coming up in the Shrimad Bhagavatam, right? Nirmatananam satam vedyam vastavam atta shivata patron muranam Shrimad Bhagavatam mahamune kritikim vapare ishvara, right? So the Shrimad Bhagavatam explains that this Shrimad Bhagavatam can, and this process of Krishna consciousness can only be understood by those that are nirmataranam, those that have no envy. And so Krishna is describing those individuals here. And then, there's an interesting thing that Prabhupada is explaining in the purport there. He explains that envy stems from ego and material identification. A devotee is always kind to everyone, even his enemy. Nirmama. Nirmama means that a devotee does not attach much importance to the pains and trouble pertaining to the body. He knows perfectly well that he is not the material body. He does not identify with the body. Therefore, he is freed from the conception of false ego and is equipoised in happiness and distress. He is tolerant and is satisfied with whatever comes by the grace of the Lord. He does not endeavor much to achieve something with great difficulty. Therefore, he is always joyful. So this is, again, remember, I was mentioning how Rupa Goswami uses happiness as a measuring stick for one's spiritual advancement. And Prabhupada here is, so the happier one is in Krishna consciousness, the more symptomatic that the person is a pure devotee, at least moving towards that direction. So Prabhupada is also saying the same thing, that because the pure devotee does not have all these anxieties, so therefore he is perfect, he's joyful. Now, here's something. One cannot love Krishna and simultaneously resent Krishna's children. I mentioned this before. Our relationship with the devotees, I mean, I heard this from Ravinda Swarup Prabhu, and his wife recently passed away yesterday. Went back to Krishna. It's an amazing couple. They've done a lot for Prabhupada, and they've just their whole life dedicated to Krishna. And she was sick, and I think last night or yesterday she left her body. And so we pray for her onward journey and to those that she's left behind. So he was explaining this very powerful statement that our our relationship with the devotees is indicative of our relationship with Krishna. So one cannot have terrible relationships with devotees and then be under the illusion that they'll have a perfect relationship with Krishna. Just like I can't, kick Balabhadra Prabhu's children and then say Balabhadra is my best friend. It doesn't work like that. So we have to cultivate good relationship with devotees. So the better our relationship with devotees, the more indicative of our relationship with Krishna. And this envy really is rooted in what? Envy is rooted in bodily concept of life. Right? It's rooted in the bodily concept of life. Actually, let's read what English dictionary says about envy. So these are things that we should watch out in ourselves. Envy is an unpleasant emotion defined by the desire for another person's possessions, qualities, or achievements, often accompanied by feelings of inferiority or resentment. It involves a two-person comparison, self and others, distinct from jealousy, which involves fearing the loss of something to a third party. So envy is even worse than jealousy. So definition is feeling that you lack what someone else has and wishing you had it, and someone sometimes wishing they hadn't. And there are two types of envy. Seeking to pull, malicious envy, that is seeking to pull the other person down to one's own level. So I'm not doing very well and he's doing well, so let me pull him down to my level. That's envy. And benign envy, acting as a motivating force to improve oneself to achieve similar success. So you see somebody succeed, but that becomes an inspiration for you to become better. So as Vaishnavas, unless we give up envy, it's impossible to practice pure devotional service. A few of a devotee's qualifications are further being described. No one is put into difficulty, anxiety, fearfulness, or dissatisfaction by such a devotee. So you have to judge in your own life. Are you getting all these responses? If you're getting this types of treatment, then you know you are dealing with a very elevated Vaishnava. And again, this is not my words. These are coming directly from Srila Prabhupada himself. Says, a few of a devotee's qualifications are further being described. No one is put into difficulty, anxiety, fearfulness, or dissatisfaction by such a devotee. Since a devotee is kind to everyone, he does not act in such a way as to put others into anxiety. At the same time, if others try to put a devotee into anxiety, he is not disturbed. It is by the grace of the Lord that he is so practiced. Again, so practiced. So this comes with practice. Again, I lost my place. It is by the grace of the Lord that he is so practiced that he is not disturbed by any outward disturbance. So you are not going to get these qualities just by chance. They come with practice. Prabhupada is that Acharya who's shown by his own life how practice gives perfection. Even though we know he's a pure devotee from birth, but he's shown that by practice, we see him develop from that young man in fighting for Gandhi with a family to giving up everything and then going to the West and preaching sadhana. And also, Prabhupada says, money may be offered, this is 16, and money may be offered to a devotee. He should not struggle to acquire it. If automatically, by the grace of the Lord, money comes to him, he is not agitated. So Prabhupada is speaking here about, and then Prabhupada speaks about lifestyle. He speaks about getting up in the morning, bathing, being clean. So these are things that, practical things. You'll cover a lot of this in the Nectar of Devotion, but these are practical things, a lifestyle that we can implement in our own lives and move towards this perfection, this goal of life. So this is the beauty of it. that Prabhupada is laying out this this process of sadhana bhakti. So that's that really. And then remember, in 1819, a devotee is always freed from all bad association. Sometime one is praised and sometime one is defamed. That is the nature of human society. But a devotee is always transcendental to artificial fame and infamy, distress or happiness. He is very patient. So this whole purport is the nectar of instruction. It's almost a copy and paste of the nectar of devotion. The nectar of instruction. And then Prabhupada says, this is one of my favorite, I mentioned this before. Silent does not mean that one should not speak. Silence means that one should not speak nonsense. One should speak only of essentials, and the most essential speech for the devotee is to speak for the sake of the Supreme Lord. And then the rest is there. And then Prabhupada, of course, Krishna concludes this: those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service, who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. So this is how Krishna concludes this beautiful chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So when you follow all these processes, Krishna says then that you are very, very dear to me. Prabhupada, very, very dear to me. So when one applies oneself sincerely in the process of Krishna consciousness, sadhana bhakti, as Prabhupada has described it, then we become very, very dear to Krishna and become very happy. So just to summarize, so my session was from 7 to 12. So the bigger picture is Krishna reveals himself gradually. In chapter 7, we covered knowledge of Krishna. Krishna is the source of everything. Material and spiritual energies, we also explained the differences. And then the essence of that chapter really is that Krishna is the ultimate cause, Sarva Karana. And in chapter 8, we spoke about remembering Krishna at death after Arjuna's questions. And then we established that consciousness determines destination. The state of being you remember at the time of death, that state will take with you at death. And if you think of Krishna, we attain Krishna. And the essence of it here is that life is a preparation for death. Number 9, we spoke about the most confidential knowledge, that bhakti is simple and joyful, and that one of the ways that one can measure one's own spiritual advancement is how happy one is in one's spiritual life. The happier we are in our spiritual life, the more advancement we are making. And we are not talking about artificial happiness. And then we learned there that Krishna accepts love, not material opulence. Patram pushpam palam toyam. And in chapter 10, Krishna described the opulence of Krishna. Everything glorious, all the vibhutis reflect Krishna. And he's the source of all excellent. Tat vibhuti matam. Shimat udita e baba. And so we have to develop the eyes to see Krishna everywhere. Then in chapter 11, it was the universal form. Krishna is time and the destroyer, and all beings depend on him. And we also discussed the importance of acknowledging our emotions, just as Krishna acknowledged Arjuna's emotions and not dismissed them. So, and then in this chapter, of course, chapter called Bhakti Yoga Devotional Service, we established that the path of the impersonalism is very, very difficult because Arjuna was asking which one is better, impersonalism or personalism. And Krishna establishes without a shadow of doubt that personal, devotional service is the highest, and devotees are the highest, and that without envy we can achieve Krishna. And then there are different levels also that in our preaching we should be careful that we preach to people according to their level and not be too over enthusiastic. Otherwise, what tends to happen is we tend to give people Krishna consciousness too soon. They become too violent, or we give them too late. So we have to, just like with Krishna done here, be considerate and understanding. So that's that. So are there any questions in relation to what we've discussed so far in this last, 5-6 verses, or the rest of the chapter? So if you have any questions or anything, you can raise your hand. We can discuss it. Otherwise, we will end my session.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Bhakta Onyako, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for your demonstrative lecture. I really enjoyed it. Sir, the area of envy and jealousy is something that is very, very critical. And sometimes we don't really know how to differentiate them, which one is worse, which one, and the best way to handle it. So, sir, I will need you to throw more light on that envy and jealousy.
Okay. I'm not going to look for I'm not going to look for the verse, but it's in chapter 2. In chapter 2, Krishna describes that the disease of the conditioned jiva is that firstly, he wants to lord it over the material world, and he wants to take over Krishna's position. This is the origin of envy. I want what Krishna has. And as we just read the definition of envy, not only do I want what Krishna has, but we want to bring down Krishna from his level into our level. So this is what we've been discussing, this impersonalism, right? Dehumanize, depersonalize Krishna. So these are Prabhupada speaks about this. So jealousy versus envy. So let's look at the difference. In envy, it's that I want what you have. Chaitanya Prema Prabhu is the principal for the Bhaktivedanta College, right? And I want what he has. I want what he has, right? He asks for something and everybody goes around and, tries to get things for him, or tries, all different stuff. Oh, he has the respect. I want that. So that's envy. So you lack something, someone else has it, and you want it instead of them. For example, if your friend at work gets a promotion, or if a devotee gets they are made into a head pujari or whatever, and then you feel bad that you didn't. So there's a few emotions there. There's a sadness, there is an inferiority, there's also a sense of competitiveness, and I want it. So in the Bhagavad Gita, you see that envy is rooted in identifying with material body, success, status, achievement, rather than our relationship with Krishna. And then we just read now that Krishna described his devotees as nirmama nirahankara, free from possessiveness and ego. Now jealousy. Jealousy is, I'm afraid of losing what I have, usually to somebody else. So that's jealousy. I have something, I'm afraid of losing it. So you have something and you fear someone else will take it. You will take it from you. And this envy usually involves relationship, attention, and affection. For example, when your best friend or your best devotee friend gets close to somebody new, so you and your friend are like, you're like always hanging out together, and somebody else comes into the community, and then your friend begins a relationship with this new devotee, and you feel jealous. You feel a little left out. I had him, now I'm losing him. So that's the difference between jealousy and envy. And remember, in 12:17, Krishna said, Dukeshu anudvigna mana. A devotee is not disturbed by loss or change. So if your friend decides, I don't like you anymore, Purushottam, I'm going to hang out now with Bhakta Elvis. It's like, okay, Hare Krishna Prabhu, good luck to you. All the best. Huh? Is that okay, Bhakta Onyako?
Hare Krishna, sir. Thank you for the light you threw. I understand it better now.
Yeah. And the
So,
thing with envy is that when it's not dealt with, when envy is not dealt with, it becomes bitterness. It becomes bitterness, and it also, you'll see when somebody starts to criticize other people constantly, that's also a symptom of envy. If everybody is constantly criticizing the temple president or this devotee and that devotee, that's a symptom of envy, right? Or you enjoy other people's failure. You know, the Germans have a term for that, enjoying other people's failure. It's called Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude, in taking pleasure in other people's failures. So bitterness, criticism, and being happy when other people fail. But the opposite is true. When you acknowledge envy, then you learn from it. It becomes a motivation. And you also learn a little humility. Rather than try to bring Krishna down to your level, then you become his devotee. So instead of saying, why not me? Why not me? Why didn't I get the position of head pujari? But we should reframe that a little bit and say, well, let me be inspired. Let me be inspired. Look at this devotee. Because of his sincerity now, he's been given this service. So it becomes a motivation rather than it becomes a destructive. And also, we should also practice what is usually called in Vedic circles mudita. So joy in other people's happiness. When a devotee does something, we should be able to congratulations. Well done, Prabhu. Very nice. Very nice. If somebody cooks nicely, congratulations. But usually we're always criticizing, this prasadam sucks. This class was terrible today. The class was that. It's always like that, right? So this is a negative mindset. But Patanjali, by the way, in his Yoga Sutra describes that the mind has two banks. He compares the mind to a river with two banks. One bank is the negative and the other bank is the positive. And he says, generally speaking, because of having taken so many births and deaths, generally speaking, our mind tends to flow towards the negative. And this is lifetime after lifetime. And so therefore the tendency is there. So, yeah, okay, I'll end here. Is that okay, Dr. Onyako?
yes, I'm very, very okay now that if somebody is envying me, but he does not planning any evil against me, and it becomes a motivation for him to change, adjust his ways in order for him to get those things peacefully without hurting me, without bringing me down, that enviness is good. I understand. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. It becomes a motivation. If it becomes motivation, if it's good. But if
Okay.
it makes you criticize others and hate others, then it'll bring you down. Because, envy never wins. You will never win at all. You'll never win. Even Krishna himself has said here in the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam, that only those who are non-envious can actually attain him or understand him. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for lending me your ears for the past, I think, 2 months. I know I've taken more time than I should have. Chaitanya Brahma Prabhu, apologize for that, but we did miss a few classes. And to all of you, I also apologize for sometimes coming out too strongly in my presentation, and also being seemingly very intolerant sometimes of certain things. But I have a duty as a teacher there, to also teach, to not tolerate substandard behavior, because sometimes what we do is we accept substandard behavior and we make it a standard, and it becomes the normalcy. And so please understand that that was done out of trying to establish a decor, and also helping myself, because when I share these standards with you, I try to enforce them. It also forces me to also observe those standards. So if I have offended you in my speech or in my behavior, please understand that it is coming from a place of love, a place of wanting to improve, a place of wanting to do service to all of you. So I will take this opportunity to offer my humble obeisances to all the Vaishnav devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees and can fulfill the desires of everyone. And they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripasindhu patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I
Namo
wish you
Namo
all the
Hare
best. I
Hare
wish
Krishna, Brother Basu Prabhu.
to continue nicely. And
Hare
I'd like
Krishna,
to
Brother Basu
thank.
Prabhu.
Yes, Chaitanya Prema Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Please, on behalf of all the students and on behalf of the management of Bhaktivedanta Academy, I want to register my sincere gratitude to you for your tolerance and for your sacrifice and for your ability to cope with us. Forgive us. We are still learning how to do things. That is the point. We are learning how to do things, and we make a lot of mistakes. So we appreciate your tolerance. So kindly forgive us. Next time we actually promise to do better, and we look into it that the attitude of the students, we work on it. We will take it more strictly. The management also working on the attitude of the students. And thank you very much for not giving up on us despite all our shortcomings. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And thank you
We
very
very
much.
deeply appreciate. Actually, your presentations are very, very standard, and your approach is very systematic and strict. And it's only we are unfortunate that we are unable to take proper advantage, and it's like we don't appreciate it enough. So, but we promise to do better next time when we meet. Sure. So thank you very much once again.
And
Hare
my
Krishna.
final words is words of thanks to Chaitanya Prema Prabhu about, this is a wonderful service. One thing that I was attending a GBC session, one of the leadership Sangha. And during one of those discussions, a question was posed, what is going to happen to ISKCON in the future? And so we were asked to explore the different possibilities that could happen in the future. And one of those possibilities is that if we don't offer education to our devotees, what's going to happen is eventually people will have their own ideas of what Krishna consciousness is, and things will fall apart. So the ISKCON of 50 years will look very different to the ISKCON that we have today if we don't offer the systematic study of Srila Prabhupada's purport. And we can see it a lot now in our movement. Less and less devotees are studying Srila Prabhupada's books now. More and more devotees are being pulled in by the material world. All these wonderful books by, self-help gurus, the Tony Robinsons of the world, they're very popular. And all these Sadgurus, whatever, they write these books, they speak very wonderfully, but they don't speak about bhakti. So I'm very, very grateful to Chaitanya Prema Prabhu for taking up this wonderful service and being one of the stalwarts, the warriors to push this forward. Because we all know, without education, everything falls apart. Everything falls apart without education. So it's important, very important. So Chaitanya Prema Prabhu, thank you very much. I know it's very difficult. It's not easy. Every teacher like me that's a guest that comes in, they have their own demands, they have their own criticism. You know, why are things not done like this? Why? I know I've been there. I know the experiences that come. I know the pain that also comes with you trying your best and then sometimes seemingly people not appreciating. I know the challenges that come with trying to run an education program and not getting any support from everybody. So know that from me, you have my support. And those things that I said I was going to look for you, I'm still in the process. I haven't forgotten your request. And yeah, you'll always have my support in spite of whatever challenges are there. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brajavasi Prabhu. Thank you very much for your encouragement. Thank you for your encouragement. We keep on trying as long as we are still in the body. And actually to try to do something spiritual in the material world. A lot of challenges are there, both internal, the ones from our own mind and consciousness, the ones from the environment, the ones from every other place. So thank you very much for your encouragement, and we'll continue to try our best.
And then
we
finally,
pray that.
Finally, Prabhu, I'll give you the last word and then we can end after this. But finally, I'd like to send out my appreciation to Janmastami Mataji, to all of you, but also primarily Janmastami Mataji, who has had the difficult task of, I know she has some other services that she does, but at the same time, she had to get all these things done. And then she also had a Vrajbasi who was constantly on her case. So, Pranapriya, I see you are here. Please send my obeisances to Janmastami. Tell her that
Thank you very
I have a lot of appreciation for her service. I know she's here. Oh, Janmastami, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Thank you for your service.
Very much. And thank you too. Thank you for your training and your teachings.
Yeah, so now you can rest in peace. No more anxiety from Rajabasi. Hare Krishna.
No problem. Once more of you, Prabhu.
Maybe not let him rest in peace, though. Maybe not let him in peace, though. The restlessness is better than resting in peace, so Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, devotees. Hare Krishna. And take
We need
care.
people like you all the time, Prabhu. We need people like you all the time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rajabasi. Thank you very much. We really appreciate
So,
you.
please, once more, offer your dandava to Vanchakalpa so that all offenses will be removed. Yeah, Vanchakalpa Taruya Chakripa Sindhuya Samata.
Hare Krishna. Time for the Sunday program.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.